The Human Optimization Podcast is proudly brought to you by Vicon Supplements, where quality meets sustainability. Vicon's all-natural supplements are handcrafted and sustainably produced in Canada, bringing you products that nourish both your well-being and our planet. Visit ViconSupplements.com today and be a part of a greener, healthier future.
Are you ready to embark on a journey to the best version of you? Join me, Lisa Pitel-Killah, as I dive deep into the world of hair tissue mineral analysis and functional medicine with fellow experts, and guide you on the path of unlocking your full potential. As a multi-time kettlebell sport world champion, I'm on a mission to reach high-performance professionals from around the world to help you minimize tiring symptoms, maximize health, and gain unstoppable energy. This is the Human Optimization Podcast. Welcome, everybody, to a brand new episode of the Human Optimization Podcast. And I am super excited to share today. I have the co-founder and CEO of YoungGoose. Now, if you don't know what YoungGoose is, you don't know what you're missing. So let me introduce this amazing gentleman who's an innovator in the skincare regime. Amitay Eshel is the co-founder, as I mentioned, of YoungGoose Skincare and the host of BiohackingBeauty Podcast, a top-ranking show in the fashion and beauty category. He's a leading expert in skin biohacking, renowned for merging cutting-edge science with practical strategies to promote skin wellness and longevity. His expertise combines deep knowledge of cellular health and biohacking with a focus on skincare, making him a trusted authority in the field. And he is here to share all of everything biohacking for your skin with us today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor and a pleasure to be here.
Amazing. Well, and I always start off because I know that everybody loves to hear a story. How did we get here? Where did we come from? Why are we here? And what are our fun things that are coming next? So please take a minute to share that with our viewers and our listeners.
Okay, so my name is Amitay Eshel, soon to be 40 years old. I'm from Israel originally, and grew up in a very rural area in Israel. Saw some footprints that might be Jesus's, might be not. It's like that area. But basically, grew up in a pretty nothing in my upbringing has anything to do really with longevity, anything to do with enjoying life at the moment, but nothing as far as no discussion that would lead to anything that I'm doing right now, quite frankly. Aside from my mother not wanting to have her mother's neck when she grows older, there was no, joined the military, ended up being the head of the head of recon for Israeli land commando, and still nothing to do with wrinkles. But when I got out, I stumbled upon a very small startup at the time that was really the first red light therapy company to go out to the consumer-facing market. And when that company got sold, by the time this company got sold, I was immersed in the biohacking and longevity field, which we now call that field. It didn't have a name back then. It was health and wellness, but didn't have a name. I called it consumer-facing medical devices, because that was everyone. That's what they were trying to do. Anything that you think about now, like hyperbarics or cold plunges, or even things like methylene blue, they were all treatments repurposed for the endeavor of peak performance or optimal performance, and not necessarily only to save a life or to cure a headache, right? The in between stage of so that was kind of 2012. Had some more money in my pocket, and I was very much into performing at my best. And I stumbled upon a molecule that I was getting IVs of that molecule. It's called NAD plus, or NAD, some people call it. And that molecule I felt was just like a cheat code for my body functioning more youthful, something that is tangible, something that is tangible in many different levels. So most people regard energy as kind of a unanimous feeling and maybe even unanimous source in our body, but really, mental energy and physical energy have very little to do with each other. So this molecule kind of addressed both, and that was how I fell in love with that molecule to begin with, and through that the endeavor for youthful function. But back then, 2013, 14, doing a round of NAD IVs was around $10,000. So speaking to my girlfriend at the time, today my wife Anastasia, who is a renowned biologist, cancer researcher, we were saying there must be a way to have it enter the body in a different way. So we basically funded a series of studies in the Weizmann Institute, which is like MIT in Israel. And we found out that the cream that we were hoping that would do that actually doesn't do that. But that's not because it doesn't work. It's because the skin is so deprived of NAD. Even more in more stark contrast is NAD decline in the skin than it is in the rest of the body. The skin doesn't share very well. It keeps it and uses it. And so we pivoted in 2017, and we said we're going to make a skincare company that's based on NAD. But since our approach to begin with was really a function-based approach, it was a result-oriented approach and not a product that has a good story, a good enough story to sell, which is most of the time. No, actually, offense to us and no offense to any other company, because this is the way business works. Like, you got to play the game. We didn't play the game so much. And the reason I'm saying it is because the second discovery we made is, even though we had a more youthful functioning skin, skin doesn't know a wrinkle or a pigmented spot or laxity or anything really that doesn't have inflammation associated with it, is a problem that needs to be addressed and kind of rewound and corrected. So our endeavor then was, hey, how do we do that? How do we dial back the biological age of the skin, but also kind of repair past damage? Because really you can think of aging as the accumulation of unrepaired damage. How do we go back and repair that damage? And that's what YoungGoose really is. It is the endeavor to say, in a larger scheme of things, hey, we believe that skin aging is not a foregone conclusion. We believe it is a curable, it's not a one-way street, right? It's curable, it's reversible. That is our journey. It's a bigger journey than just skincare. So, for example, we've already cleared it with the FDA. We just didn't kind of made it public yet, but we have a test that would measure your skin's metabolic age, and would also have takeaways that you could address. So, and it's a metabolomic test. But that is the ethos of the company. Right now, if you took a snapshot of the company, we do it through topical application. So we don't make supplements. We definitely recommend a lot of supplements, right? But we don't make supplements. What we do is we use molecules that have been proven to work mechanistically, as far as longevity, as far as functional age, or what people call biological age is a little tricky. We call it functional age, and we tailor them to be absorbed topically, dermally, not transdermally to your body, but dermally into your skin, and be able to address different hallmarks of aging. So we have kind of, depends who you ask, between 9 to 22 different names we give cellular aging. or the excuses that the cells have to not function optimally. And our products are made to tackle all of those hallmarks. And one of those hallmarks, a newer one, is mechanical alterations, mechanistic alterations, which in our skin look like wrinkles, everything that I just mentioned that is mechanical, right? It is material shifting around rather than biochemical markers.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And so for those of you watching, I actually got some YoungGoose probably about 3-4 weeks ago now and started implementing it. And this one does have the NAD plus.
Yeah.
And I noticed a huge difference in my skin in just 4 weeks by using that. So I was very impressed. I always like to try things and then share.
Awesome.
And so you go ahead.
No, so that if I would wager, I would say you got it at the Don't Die Summit in New York. Is that correct?
Didn't actually. No, we ordered it right off the website.
Cool. No, because these specific bottles, I think we by the time we got to Don't Die, I think they sold out. So that's why. But yeah, so you're holding our first product, actually, the kind of product that made us who we are, and it based on NAD. I can tell you that definitely NAD is my first love.
Yep.
But there are other molecules that I consider as impactful, skin specific, as impactful as NAD, or at least synergistically as impactful. Yeah.
Amazing. So I want you to share what those are, but give me 1 sec to backtrack just for a minute, because you said that you talk about it as functional age of the skin rather than biological age of the skin. And so explain how that concept works for people that may not understand.
So the problem with biological age in general, the concept of biological age, is an incomplete concept. It is because it's like the rate of aging for the most part. When we say that, we're mainly asking how can we slow down aging to the point where we gain more health span, we gain more healthy years, but we do die eventually, or it is a one-way street, right? If I have a rate of aging of 0.7, it means one would be a year has passed and I aged a year. 0.7 would be a year has passed and I aged 9.5 months. But that in our skin is really leaving a lot on the table, because it doesn't encompass a couple more pillars that are important, especially when skin is concerned. So this is longevity is definitely a pillar, or rate of aging is definitely a pillar, but another pillar is resilience, which is very important. So you could think of these two, juxtapose these two as, if everything were to unfold the same way it's unfolding, currently when I measure my rate of aging, that would be how I aged. But both, full body and skin specific, we do not age in a linear fashion.
Right.
We actually age in spurts. Things happen in our life: stress, injury, sun exposures, or environmental stressor exposure as far as the skin is concerned, etc., which age us in spurts. And that is why resilience is actually a separate topic. Is how do we tackle those spurts, and both in the body and in the skin. One could, it is a Venn diagram, but one could actually be, if you've maxed one, you probably are minimizing the effect of the other. So we can talk about rapamycin, one of the really the most effective longevity drugs, Rapamycin, since it lowers inflammation dramatically, especially like if we are talking about skin specific, if you did have a gash, cut, bruise, whatever that is, that would actually heal slower or actually not heal. So just bear that in mind. So these are two pillars, and then there is optimal performance currently. So how does our skin look currently? How does it perform currently? And if you max that out, so for example, one thing that is very, very, very popular right now, even if you look at someone like Brian Johnson, for example, which is like, I mentioned him before, which is definitely a canary in the coal mine for everyone. And I really appreciate those type of projects. I think they're important. I think they're important, especially when I don't need to do them. And Brian Johnson, a lot of what he does is longevity oriented, so sleep, caloric deficit, etc. But in his skin, for example, he actually does the opposite. He only prioritizes, what I call like optimal performance currently. So he does a lot of things that would force cells to split more rapidly than they would on their, not could, but than they would on their own. And you are sacrificing anything from like telomere length to mitochondrial function to epigenetic alterations. You're actually sacrificing a lot of things in order to do that senescent burden. And you do, so that's when you do like lasers and radio frequency and ultrasound therapy, and even things like injections that are supposed to stimulate, that are perceived as foreign bodies in the skin, which then the skin actually kind of creates a scar tissue around, which you are welcome to call collagen if you want, but mechanistically this is not the same as the collagen you've produced originally. So here is but that is in order to look good right now. One would argue, this is very contentious, but one would argue like not exposing your skin to the sun at all, although would benefit, let's say DNA mutation wouldn't benefit our reservoir of vitamin D in the body, for example. So, which I'm agnostic, by the way, to that. I'm just really, it's not my cup of tea. That's not what I'm interested in, right? Like we're interested in again, like staving off skin aging. So that's an example of why I think functional aging, or the skin's functional age, is something that we're more interested in. Or metabolic age, which is the expression of that, right? A metabolic test, what it is, it's basically the end result of my cellular function, like what my cells actually produce. That's the metabolites, right? So that to me is more important, and so that's one side of the coin. But then the other side is, how can I safely and effectively introduce stress that does not leave its mark in scar tissue, but what we can, stimulate the skin to renew or to go back and like repair damage that's been done and is perceived permanent by the skin.
Yeah. Wow. Well, and I will kind of share as well. I think a lot of people that follow me and listen know exactly how old I am, and so I'm going to be 52 this year, and
You
so
look fantastic.
Well, thank you. I've always been, super interested in obviously taking care of myself, right? Health and wellness, as you talked about it now, biohacking and what have you, but skin too. I mean, right? We're living with this. And I think that, a lot of the things you're talking about, lasers and a lot of those things. And one of the things that I came across that I would love for you to dive into a little bit is the role of red light therapy in that rejuvenation world of a more natural, holistic approach, rather than breaking it down so that you look great today when it happens 20 years from now, right? What does it do then?
Well, a lot of the aesthetic devices are wave-based devices, and I think the end consumer, the novice, give me the kind of hey doctor, give me the laundry list of what I need to do type consumer, that we really need to consider every time we throw a bunch of do's and don'ts into the air, or a bunch of keywords. I really need to make sure that, because I've had some instances where I confused end consumers by what I'm saying. So just want to clarify what red light therapy is not. Okay, red light therapy doesn't work directly on the quantity of collagen in the skin. Like those wave-based devices that I mentioned before, whether it is laser, we're going to go, by the way, outside in. So lasers, which are the most superficial, whether it is, by the way, like, different peels that doctors do, like professionals do, not doctors. Whether it is radio frequency or whether it is ultrasound, which I am, lasers, I could see the argument to do, but ultrasound and all therapy, or like ultrasound, I would argue that they should be illegal. Having said that, red light therapy isn't that, even though it has a wave function because it's light, right? Red light therapy is very interesting because, evolutionarily speaking, our body is evolved to interpret many different cues from the environment, and the strongest cues our body really infers, or the most, I would say like multi-organ cues that the body likes to use are temperature, number one, and light, number two. And what our body, as far as like red light therapy, red light absorbs very poorly in water. That is why when we look from the outside in on Earth, the Earth looks blue, because that is what's reflected. Red light passes through. That's why when there is sunset and sunrise, because the light goes through the most amount of atmosphere, we're left with red and infrared, which you cannot see. That's the heat you feel on your skin. So our body evolved to use this as a cue for repair, especially our mitochondria. What happens is, and I think I'm gonna take my chances and get like really nerdy here.
Go for it.
But when we're suboptimal, everyone at some place in their body, they're suboptimal. What happens is the mitochondria creates a byproduct, which is nitric oxide. And I know nitric oxide seems good, but inside your mitochondria, it's not good. And the reason is actually docks on the oxygen receptor in your mitochondria, in the fourth complex in the mitochondria. It's called CCO, cytochrome C oxidase, and occupies it, and actually competitively displaces oxygen. It's all, by the way, like statistics, right? Like sometimes oxygen is going to dock in CCO, sometimes it's going to be nitric oxide. So what you get is competitive displacement of oxygen. You get more oxidative stress. What red light therapy does, it has proven to do, because there are many things like water restructuring in the cells and things like that that are like subcategories, and also like less proven. But what is proven to do is it breaks the bond between CCO and nitric oxide, allowing oxygen to then dock. It kind of reshuffles things. And there is a mechanism of your mitochondria like expelling nitric oxide, which actually and reactive oxygen species, that oxygen that did not bind. And these two, when they exit your mitochondria, they actually have positive results. Nitric oxide is mainly involved in vasodilation, among other things, but also reactive oxygen species. The movement of reactive oxygen species is actually positive at low quantities. It actually stimulates things like NF-kappa beta, like the master switch of inflammation. It signals repair. But what it leaves is more fertile ground for oxygen to dock in the mitochondria, which then the cell can function properly, create more ATP, which is cellular energy. And then you get more repair, reduction of inflammation, etc. So that's what red light therapy does. Red light therapy is not a in essence, it is hormetic. It is a stressor to CCO. It actually kind of vibrates CCO. But it is not hormetic in a way where it creates some kind of inflammation, which then is resolved. And that's why I'm saying it is not quantity of collagen that is the issue here. It's the quality of collagen, elastin, hyaluronic acid, or any cellular function that we need. Okay. And that is, to me, one of the essences of biohacking, which is, stripping away, most of nature's, properties they have some good in them and some bad. And a lot of the good effects is actually to try to have your body deal with the bad effects, right? So what, I mean, we can talk a lot about, what red and near-infrared as a part of the sun's spectrum do, but at the end of the day, red light therapy devices harness that ability, that reaction in the body, and basically strips away the UV, blue light, in order to provide only that energy. Today, devices look at like incorporating some other wavelength and color are interchangeable. Okay, so wavelength doesn't imply power, but it does imply color, basically. So when I say red and near infrared, you could change what I'm saying to 630 to 900 nanometers. Okay, but in our system, so the skin, very similar to what I said about NAD before, the skin gets this energy first. So most of that energy stays in the skin. About 5% of that energy gets transformed into heat because it does get absorbed in water. So infrared saunas, for example, have over 90% absorption in heat, and that is in water, and that's why they heat up your tissue. So near infrared and red, they have poor absorption in water. Most of them get absorbed in the mitochondria. What doesn't get absorbed in the mitochondria in the skin travels further in the body, but really most of the energy stays between like 3 to 5 millimeters into the skin. Okay, which is dermis, hypodermis area.
Yeah.
Now, we get anything from better blood circulation, reduction of inflammation, better coping with external stressors, but also support of resolution of damages in the skin. So a lot of, our skin is basically, every time we move our face, every time we get exposed to external stressors, a lot of things. So what happens all the time, the skin has damage and inflammation to resolve. And you could imagine when we're doing like a microneedling, or when we're doing the laser that I mentioned, whatever that is, it's exactly like going to the gym, where it is not the devices that would create collagen, is how your body resolves that. So red and near infrared complement that resolution in a way where it increases the skin's capacity, the cell's capacity to respond to that. And the main aspect is your skin, especially as it grows older, has stop gaps where it's saying, this is too much for me to do as far as like a positive, by the way, I'm using heuristics here, but like a flexible, youthful collagen, elastin, and hyaluronic acid production. I'm going to create fibrous tissue. I'm going to create scar tissue, which is negative. Okay. So that helps kind of shift that window further. And that really is the main benefit of red and near infrared. I would say like a side benefit is we get less UV DNA damage if we have irradiated our skin with red and near infrared before exposing your body to external stressors.
Yeah, makes sense. That is, well, and so I want to come back around, because again, I feel like that's in the grand scheme of things, we're seeing more red lights, right? The facial ones, the neck one, like we're seeing so many. And I know it's been around for a long time, but I feel like it's hitting some of the more downstream areas now where people can get them anywhere. Right. And I think
Yeah.
that's important. And for, I want to kind of talk about, people are always like, well, what do I do? What do I do for my skin to age backwards? What are some of the things I can do? Maybe red light's part of that, but what are some of those specific things that you think that people can do to really slow down that aging process, maybe even reverse it?
Okay, so red light is definitely part of it. I do want to tell you something around red light therapy. So as I said, it is a stress related mechanism. So that does have a minimum and a maximum
Right.
power, like joule, there's a measurement of power multiplied by time that we want to hit. And that also, so within that, even the power output has a minimum and a maximum. Something that is, if I lifted, 0.1 pounds over my head, I'm not going to get stronger. And if I attempted to lift, 100 pounds over my head, I'm going to injure myself. So there is a limit. It's called biphasic dose response. So for good, like the minimum effective dose, as far as like red light therapy, as far as like power output, we really want what's hitting the skin to be at least 50 milliwatts per centimeter squared. And that's putting it like, this is really, one would argue, 30 does something, but really 50 is where we start to see, where research really shows benefits, and really even higher, even like in 90. Don't worry about maximum, because the reason we know maximums is that one of the earlier incarnations of red light therapy was low-level lasers, LLLT it's called, low-level laser therapy. And one of the earlier applications was actually overwhelming a nerve. So we kind of know the upper threshold, and that's like 2,000 milliwatts per centimeter squared. So it's very hard to hit, and no LED currently is able to do that. So the lower threshold, so masks are not very effective at hitting that threshold, and that is because of the pliable nature of masks. They need to use diodes that do not require cooling, and that lowers the wattage that the diode could use, and we just don't get enough energy. I'm not saying that it's completely irrelevant, but you definitely are paying more for, these masks cost, let's say, $150 to like $300, $500. There's one for $700, which really I'm telling people don't buy that. But the power density you're getting is very minimal. Shameless plug, we did create a product called Ladder, light activated DNA repair, that we're saying, hey, if you have a mask, that would double the photons your skin eventually gets. We have a photoluminescent algae extract there that would add another photon to every photon. So technically you can reach 60 if you have a 30, right? So we kind of push you past that limit. But as a standalone, it's tricky. Having said that, a lot of people would either do that or not do anything. So it's better than nothing. It's just a little deep dive. So normally I recommend tabletop panels or full body panels, but to each his own. And these are not completely useless. They're just not my first choice. Having said that, okay, so what do we do as far as like skin aging in general? First of all, let me say there is something called intrinsic aging, which is kind of our overall body aging and the skin as a function of that. And extrinsic aging. Extrinsic aging is environmental exposure, mainly, that drives skin aging. So extrinsic aging is 80% of skin aging. 20% is intrinsic aging. As far as internally, we can do a few things. We definitely want to have like a low inflammatory diet, take care of things like deficiencies, have your gene sequenced, see if you're methylating well, etc. That could be an issue, but many, many more things that would affect that. Look at deficiencies. If I don't know, I use a company called Self-Decode. I think they're doing a
Mm-hmm.
really good job because they're matching DNA sequencing and blood tests.
Nice. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we are going to launch something that's more skin specific that would be able to tell you, hey, you need more spermidine, as an example.
Yep.
Now, topically, when we speak about skin aging specifically, we definitely want to have a healthy relationship with the sun, where we are doing a few things. We expose our skin to red light therapy before we expose our skin to the sun. That improves how your mitochondria kind of responds to sun damage. We do want to use sunblock, like non-nano zinc oxide sunblock. We want to limit the exposure to the least when the sun is not in zenith. So like between sunrise to 9, 10, or after 4 p.m.
Yeah.
And we definitely want to understand that, artificial light, blue light, pollutants, heavy metals, glyphosates, all of those things, they really increase oxidative stress in the skin, EMF, non-native EMFs. And therefore, I'm sitting right now under an artificial light, and thankfully these are wired, but let's imagine they weren't, right? And there's EMFs around me. Where my body is not exposed, where my body is not exposed, some of those things actually don't reach as far as my skin is concerned. So all of those things increase oxidative stress, and they lower the body's ability to respond to sun damage. So if we do want to get the benefits of sun damage, get them through areas that are traditionally not exposed throughout the day to those environmental stressors.
Makes sense.
So that actually is a third pillar that I just mentioned, which is the protective pillar. But there are two other pillars, which is, and we're only talking about function. We're not talking about how do we rewind damage that has been accumulated over time. But function, the first thing would be youthful energy, which is NAD related. So we need to boost NAD in our skin. Orally, it's pretty tricky because there are going to be a bunch of other systems. So 95% is going to stay in your liver. It doesn't only depend on where it passes through first. It does, but it also depends on the precursor you're taking and enzymes breaking it down and the concentration of those enzymes. That's why our liver is very good at keeping NAD, because that's kind of the perfect storm of those two things. It gets it first and has a lot of those enzymes. The IVs are great if you do them consistently, and they're very, very expensive to do consistently. Yeah. So if we talk about skin specific, we want nano-size liposomal precursors. Currently speaking, we are the only company that does that, but patents are very easy to bypass in skincare. And maybe you live in somewhere that YoungGoose is not being sold, like Japan. And in Japan, there's actually a brand that I know of, as a matter of fact, that is working on doing something similar. So anywhere you can get that. Right. Nano-sized liposomal precursors, NR, NMN. I do not recommend niacinamide specifically. There is a niacinamide frag that's called 1-MNA. And I'm going to touch on that in a second, but niacinamide actually is the end result of NAD usage, and it kind of feeds into a feedback loop saying don't recycle more NAD to the skin, like don't make your own NAD.
Right.
So we do want to provide exogenous NAD building blocks. We don't want to use full NAD molecule because your body doesn't really understand how to get it into cells and use it. It prefers the building blocks. That's the language it uses and speaks.
Yeah.
And the second thing is we want to support the NAMPT, which is the pathway that creates NAD in the body out of used NAD, etc. So niacinamide does not only, so niacinamide actually kind of lowers NAMPT function, and that is super substantiated. I remember Dr. Joe Mercola, like talking about why you should use niacinamide, and I'm like texting him like a bunch of articles, like, "Hey, you're gonna change your mind once you read this." So we have our own complex called NAD Apex that does both. We actually just are starting to kind of roll it into products that does both. It stimulates NAMPT and provides those precursors. One MNA is a supplement you can take to stimulate NAMPT. Another one is niacin cuprose, copper niacin. So many brands like Biostax, I think is the name of the brand.
Okay.
Nuchido, which is a UK-based brand, and probably other ones as well. They use copper niacin. So copper niacin actually is not a classical NAD precursor. It targets the recycling of NAD. So that's what you can do as far as like youthful energy in your skin. NAD, by the way, red light therapy would go into that kind of bucket, right? Because we are increasing the capacity for repair. I think the first thing that I said is that I believe that there is an even more important molecule.
You did mention that.
And that is spermidine. So spermidine, in my opinion, for now, on our journey to, really tackle skin aging at its core, slow it down as much as we can, and work on reversing the flow of aging in the skin, both, biologically and visually. I believe spermidine is the best molecule that we have right now, because spermidine tackles the most amount of hallmarks. It tackles 9 out of the kind of official bona fide 12 hallmarks of aging. And if you were to claim, hey, there are more, it would tackle a lot of those as well, especially in the skin. Actually, in the skin, it tackles more because microbiome, which is one of those, it actually affects it in the skin as well, which you would not necessarily claim in the rest of the body. So, and it is on its own almost holding the second bucket, which is detoxification or removal of stressful components in the skin. So senescent cells would be there, malfunctioning cells and their parts would be there. UV DNA damage would be there as an example, which for that we use a specific, so the product that I mentioned before for red light therapy, we use specific enzymes that are activated by red light to do that. But in general, spermidine is the most effective molecule to tackle anything from like senescent cells to mitochondrial dysfunction to autophagy, which is the removal of malfunctioning recycling of malfunctioning cells and their parts. And as far as like small animal studies, autophagy is the thing that extended life the most. That is anything, around caloric restriction and fasting, that is to trigger autophagy. And what we are learning now is that spermidine is not only necessary to, or is not only a nice to have because it triggers autophagy. No. Spermidine is needed in the DNA level for autophagy to be expressed. Wow. So bear that in mind. So, you could fast all you want, or you could do, caloric restriction all you want, or you could do other things, herbs or plants that would trigger autophagy, for example, but you are still needing adequate levels of spermidine in order for that to even work. Yeah. So bear that in mind. So these are the 3 pillars, really. It's like youthful energy, removal of burdensome materials in the skin, and obviously protection from further damage, right?
Yeah.
That is absolutely. By the way, one thing about that I don't like to use the word detoxification because it's more, but that second bucket, one word about that second bucket is that it doesn't only work to take things out of the way. It works very much so like a chimney where it doesn't only kind of removes soot, but also stokes the flame of repair. So the more I can do that, it actually kind of stimulates repair as well.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. And great.
These are the 3 pillars.
I love it. And I love the fact that you broke it down, brought all of the pieces in, and made it so easy to digest, to understand, right? And
hopefully.
oh, well, and it's all part of learning, like for men and women out there, whether they're in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, doesn't matter, understanding some of the things that are available to you to be able to utilize and be able to move forward. The fact that you created a product to increase the red light utilization is amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
That was something that we wanted to do for a long time.
Yeah.
And we have so many things that are still in the pipeline. But obviously, there are 2 considerations here. This is a catch-22. There is a catch-22. I actually had a call with a very, very big, I just don't want to, very big investment fund in the longevity field, probably the biggest, aside from L'Oreal. Like L'Oreal themselves, I don't know if you know, they invested $66 million, for example, in MitoCure. So, and we're really damned if we do, damned if we don't, because we need money to invest in everything, right?
Of course. Yeah.
And there is a limit to what we could do with so we own 100% of the company, my wife and I. There is a limit to what we can do. So for example, we are about $1.5 million in the hole with exosomes, because exosomes is a whole new can of worms, and people don't understand exosomes as the carrier. It's like saying liposomal what? So to actually make super efficacious exosomes, it's more than just like coming out with some buzzword, right? So that is a lot of what we do. Is R&D. 90% of our revenue goes back to R&D.
Yeah.
But the other thing is let's say we took this company that I was speaking with, and I quote, "We don't write a check that's less than $15 million." They were speaking between 15 to 150 million. Great, sounds great. But a prerequisite would be is that you stop, going after crazy molecules, and you capitalize on what the consumer understands right now, and what they would respond to right now. And that is not conducive to innovation.
Yeah.
I'll give you a small example. NAD is kind of hot right now, and they're saying it's going to be the hot molecule for 2025 or 2026. We started, we started research 2014, or we decided it's a skincare product 2017. Spermidine is probably like 3 to 5 years from being that. And we're already, looking at some gene therapies that no one's understanding what we're doing there. But none of that would be possible if we took someone else's money. By the way, that was said in the conversation. Yeah, that would not be possible. So it's a really crazy ride. It's a scary ride, because you are very tempted to just take the money and, even your own money, and not reinvest it, right? Like just say, hey, people get this, but you need to, we need to remember the original idea and what we're here to do. Yeah. And so for example, when you bought the product, you actually did more than to your skin. You did more than just buy a product that will benefit your skin. This is the God to honest truth. What you did is you actually funded the creation of a better product for you later on, which, by the way, we have. So the product you bought is called CARE, which is cellular anti-aging repair and energy. You see, we love acronyms. But there is already two versions beyond that, which are our youth line of products, which is also play on words, like you, and then the TH is like small, like you would have in a trademark, by the way. Yep. So the youth line is a line that already has innovations like, spermidine or peptides that we've developed, or ergothioneine, which is mitochondria-specific antioxidant, or ectoin, which is now becoming popular, by the way, but it is a microorganism derivative that structures water around proteins. I call it what hyaluronic acid wishes it was. Anyway, so we are that company. We are that company that, it's funny because when I hear people, lovely people, very well-meaning people and fantastic people saying something like, I'm not going to put anything on my skin that I can't pronounce. First of all, good luck pronouncing ergothioneine or even hyaluronic acid from off the bat. But also, we're a company that we kind of tell you, hey, you got to trust us that the stuff that you can't pronounce is good. Yeah. And that is, by the way, and I'm going to finish my rant. One of the things that we had to do is to understand when we started. Again, we were not skincare expert, or we were longevity experts stepping into skincare. And we did not foresee, did not read the playing field well, understanding that the consumer would want clean products, because like anything, most of it is branding, marketing. Some of it, there is a kernel of truth, but a lot of marketing behind it. Right. And we did not, we incorrectly judged the power of that marketing. But at the end of the day, what we want to do is serve as many people as possible. So a lot of what we've been doing in the last few years in the lab is reformulating to have products that are considered clean. We would consider all the products clean, but are considered, what is called like EWG, Environmental Working Group, like graded 1 or 2, which are like considered clean. So that's kind of, or UCA, graded excellent, whatever that is, right? That's another journey that we have been doing. So really, sometimes you got to trust us and understand that we have someone's best skin results and health in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's amazing to hear. You are obviously you are a true innovator, right? Because a lot of people would just take the money and run, right? But you're and I say your wife's too, that's the passion behind it, of where you want to go, and nothing will cloud that. And that is amazing. And I think the work you're doing, I mean, I can't wait to hear what some of the next things are going to be. I can only imagine, what that looks like. And that's super exciting.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So I just want to say thank you. I also have, so for those of you looking, I also tried the lip plump. It's amazing, just in case anybody's wondering. So it's called Adaptogloss. I love it. So there's lots of products, lots of amazing things. You got some amazing science here. And, again, product of the future, or products of the future definitely are coming with so many innovators behind it and so much passion behind it. So thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. This was a great show. For those of you watching, make sure you follow my channel. We have a brand new episode every 2 weeks. Give this episode a like. We're going to have all of the YoungGoose links below, how you can follow Amitay and figure out and find out all of the new things that they're doing as well. If you're listening on your favorite podcast host, make sure you give this episode a like, and we will see you next time. Thanks for joining us today on the Human Optimization Podcast. Episode technical production is by Grace Sylvester, and guest booking by Stu Tate. Want to learn more? Visit Pitel-Killah.com for incredible free resources to supercharge your journey to becoming the best version of you. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like and subscribe to the Human Optimization Podcast, and follow me on social media at Pitel-Killah.